Okay, this is Lee Clough of University of Central Lancashire, just interviewing Pete Wild, who's the head of the youth development phase at Oldham Athletic Football Club. Just before we start, Pete, do you consent to this interview being recorded?
That's fine, mate.
Thank you. Are you aware of the existence of the relative age effect?
Yeah, we were aware of it. Must have been about 3-4 years ago now through the FA. They've been bringing in the module courses, and I think it's on the module 2 where they start to really get in depth about the relative age effect. I think it's some good piece of work that's been put out there, and I think it can only benefit us, especially at academies, when we're trying to produce the best players and look at some of the things that may affect producing the best players.
Okay. I'm assuming you work with the teams.
Yeah, we work with teams closely. I used to until 3 months ago work with the under-14s, but now I oversee the 12s to 16s and I coach with the youth team. But I'm very heavily involved in all them groups now, and it's really my responsibility for them groups.
So, are you aware of the birth dates of the players within your teams, or were you aware of the birth dates of players within that team?
We have a system called Pro Football Support that we pay a lot of money for each year. That's at the start of every season produces a lot of information for us, i.e. maturation status of where kids are and again their birth dates. I couldn't rhyme them off to you, but I have a good understanding of where we are with our birth dates of our kids.
Okay, do you feel there's an existence of a relative age effect within your team?
I've got to be honest, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's across football. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be, but I think yes, if you was to push and shove, I reckon we've got probably 50-60% born September to January, and then probably 40% after that, as a roundabout figure.
Okay. Do you think could you identify individuals right now within your teams? I mean, not my name. Could you think of the players in your teams who either positively or negatively are affected by the relative age effect? And if so, how do you feel they are affected?
I'll give you two examples. I've got one lad in the 14s who is very well developed for his age, born in February, but his maturation information will say he's going to be at full capacity 6'5". So you could argue either way for that kid. He's the biggest in the group, he's huge, but he's born sort of middle of the road. So I've got that. I've got a lad in the youth team, second year scholar, so coming up to his 18th birthday. He might have turned 18, but our maturation information says that he's got the body of a 16-year-old. Now obviously he's coming up to getting, whether he gets a pro contract or not, we've got to take that information into consideration, obviously when he's playing reserve team football, youth team football, and does he need time to develop? Do we need to give him that 1 year pro contract to see if he develops, or do we... ultimately, for us, Oldham Athletic is based on his football ability, but as you can see, there's one lad who's born back end of the year, August. Maturation says he's a 16-year-old kid. He's really an 18-year-old kid. And so I think for the first time this year, we've really taken that into consideration. On the flip side of that, I've got a kid born 1st of September. 1st of September, well developed in that group, but his maturation information says that he's a under 14 and he is 14, so there's loads of information there for us to go upon, but it's how we use it, and I think the best one is the youth team lad who's body of a 16-year-old, actual age 18, and what do we do? Do we give him a pro contract, or do we not?
Just on that, I mean, you said you got your considerations that you're keeping in place for all these players who are aware of it. Are there any, say, strategies that have been in place where you've identified, right, this is it?
We have a maturation process within the football club. Again, through the EPPP, we've had to develop this, but it's been very useful, and we've had only over the last month, had some really good conversations using our Pro Football Support information, and I can tell you every boy in the academy, whether they're a late, intermediate or early developer. So that information is with every coach within our academy. So for example, we've got a kid, we think he's either underdeveloped, generally, if they're underdeveloped, we look at his maturation status, it tells us that he's behind in his physical development. The next part of the process then is for the coach to speak to our head of sports science here and to myself to discuss that information.
Yeah.
And then ultimately the decision's made, one on the player profile of what we want at that age group, 2 on, well, he's decent technically but he'll catch up and we're quite happy he'll catch up, but ultimately 3, is he a good player or not? I think we can get bogged down with information overload. We've got to keep it. There's a saying that our gaffer uses on the sign all the time that sports science should be on tap and not on top.
Yeah.
And I'm firmly of that belief that you've got to keep things realistic. If the kid's not where he should be in technical development, or we don't think he can get there in technical development, that should ultimately be what the answer is.
So, I mean, you probably just answered my question. My question would have been is what factors do you look for when you're identifying young players?
We have a player profile for every age group, where we've carefully sat down and what do we want from a player at that age group.
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking all-encompassing of the football club, the first one that the gaffer wants is attitude.
Yep.
Is he a good kid? And that's above technical ability, which is scary these days, but does he want to improve? Does he want to be here? Second one's his ability.
Yeah.
And then then you're going down physical development. Can the kid get around the pitch? Because again, that's a massive factor in the modern game. The game's getting quicker and quicker. So unfortunately, if that child can't get around the pitch, he's not going to make a career in the game, and that's what we're producing here. So yeah, we have a player profile for each age group, and that's broke down into what technical, physical, psychological and social attributes you want from that group. But ultimately, the Academy's philosophy on recruitment is good attitude, technical ability, then physical development. Can't remember the other 2, but I think it's willingness to improve and things like that.
I mean, I'm going over some of these questions that you answered earlier. We say you've got young players coming in, and certain factors. Say they were coming in and out certain factors. Do you think has the relative age effects ever come into consideration when you're looking at potential new players?
Definitely. Yeah. We've had kids in over the years who we've got a kid in the 13s, smallest kid in the group by an absolute mile. Don't know his birth date, but I would presume, with physically he's younger, but technically very, very good. So do we take a chance on the kid? Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
One, that he might grow. He might not grow to the biggest kid, but he's definitely worth a gamble to see if we can get the best out of that kid. So we're always prepared to take on kids. Again, it comes back to, is he a good player? Doesn't matter how big, small they are they a good player? And yes, if he's small but he's a good player, he's worth a chance.
Okay. I mean, are you aware, that's the question, are you aware of potential reversal at some point in these relative age effects?
Yeah, I think as you get older,
I
think it's more apparent at the older age groups. The reversal starts to. He's had to work harder. He's had to become. And I heard a quote from Zola a few years ago. He always said he had to be quicker and sharper than everybody else because he couldn't physically cope with the physical demands of the game. So he always had to be one step ahead, think straight, a step ahead. So what you can generally get with them, that reversal, is that they're cleverer.
Yeah.
They have to work at the game more. They have to be more sharp. They're more resolute. They really want it more. So, yeah, I think as they get older, you do get that. I mean, you look at our first team centre mid and James Wesolowski, not the biggest of players, probably been one of the smallest in his group all the way through the academy. But what does the first team manager want? He wants players who can handle the ball, players who are tenacious and can move around the park, and he's got that in abundance.
Yeah.
So I think them 3 factors of what the first team manager wants have probably been at the forefront of James's footballing career, because he's had to be better, he's had to be that. So it's probably worked in his favour that he's got through the system because of it, because he's had to be cleverer, sharper, better, more resolute.
Brilliant. I mean, I can give you some examples in a second, but I don't know. But are you aware of strategies of other clubs or organisations, what they've used to minimise this relative age effect?
Some Well, you look at Man United. Man United will always want the best players. So again, I don't think the relative age effect's ever coming at Man United. They want the best technically gifted players who can handle the ball under pressure and look after the ball. So if you're looking for a model of they're not interested in relative age effect, go at Man United, and they will want the best players.
Okay.
I can tell you on the flip side of that, if you want, before Manchester City got all the money, their philosophy for recruitment was get me an athlete and we will make them a player. So if you want to look on the opposite side, and Manchester City would always say get me an athlete and we'd make them a player. So two local clubs to us here with two very differing philosophies. I know Manchester City has completely changed now, but that's financially based. But that used to be their philosophy.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, so I'm just going to give you a couple of examples on what circles are used. So for example, Ajax, they have a man there who's developed, it's called the average age. And what they'll do is they'll look at teams, and it's suggesting where you get your teams, your players in your team, carry out their death dates, and you're going to try and get them to fall in between the bracket of an average age. So in that way you can have a potentially older player who's technically still needs to be down low, or you can have a younger player who possibly wants to, and you just find that it evens out at some point. There's that one in Tottenham. We'll do something, whereas instead of having the age groups that we see in England, some 200, 900, 10s, 11s, what they'll have is your 9-year-olds, your 10-year-olds, your 11-year-olds, your 12-year-olds. So as soon as you turn 10, you say yesterday,
you were 2000 birthday.
Today you are playing for the 10s. Just on that, would you be, or do you think your club would be open to the implementation of such a strategy?
I think we would do. I know Manchester City now go and do the 2000s. If you're a 2000 birthday, you'll go and play in that. I think ultimately what it'd be for us is, can we recruit the best players that way? As you know, we're a small club that has to recruit from the bigger clubs and has to stand in the slips, to pun a phrase, of the bigger clubs. So I think it would always be down to, can we still recruit the best players doing it that way? I think we could, but it's that transitional period of, us doing that, are we going to for 4 or 5 years lose the quality because we've had to change all the way we go about our business, or will it be just an overnight switch and it'll be fine? It's open to debate, as probably that's why you're sat here, but open to debate. I think it'd be easier for the bigger clubs. If you want an answer from me, it'd be easy for the bigger clubs, tougher for the what we call the Cat 3 clubs, the lesser clubs.
Okay, so this is the last question on this page.
No respect.
Do you have any suggestions or ideas yourself with regards to the relative age effects? And this can include, say, research that you'd like to see, or questions that you'd like to be answered, maybe.
I wouldn't be opposed to the birth date thing, because the rest of Europe does it. And for example, we get kids in the islands who be scholars here. And then he might be a 16 over here, but he's a 17 over there. So why don't we fall in line with the rest of Europe? It just makes sense. The games becoming continental, why they're bigger. Why not fall in line with everybody else? I would also, and I mean the FA looked at, when I used to work for the FA used to looked at this January to December, the date years. But then again, you're still falling into the vicious circle of, alright, he's born in January, what does the December kid do? So I just don't see a way. I'd love somebody to come up with the answer of the way around it. But I think ultimately, if we get the best coaches dealing with the best players, then it shouldn't matter when they're born. They have got to be good technical players, and then if we keep technical at the front of our mind, the physical, the technical for me goes hand in hand with the psychological in some respects. Because if you're smaller, you're good technically, that means your game awareness is better. That means you're a good player. Then your physical, all right, that might go hand in hand with the psychological again, because if you're smaller, you've got to be cleverer, etc., etc. So I'd love somebody to tell me the answer to how we get it, but I think it's ultimately down to, if the kid is good enough technically, you can give him the rest. You can give him the rest.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Pete. I mean, that was the last question. Anything that you don't feel we've covered that you want to share with us now?
No. Again, if you can help me in any of them answers, you can help this academy.
Yeah.
We're open to ideas all the time.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Pete.
Not a
Appreciate
problem.
it. That's the